In the Namib Desert, there is a town where sand fills the bedrooms, climbs the staircases, and pours through windows like water. The rooms still have doors. The walls still stand. The wallpaper is still on the walls. But the people are gone. This was not always a ghost town. 100 years ago, this place had electricity, imported champagne, a hospital, a ballroom, luxury in one of the harshest deserts on Earth, because 100 years ago, Kolmanskop was built on diamonds. This is Kolmanskop, near the coast of what is now Namibia. In its prime, it was one of the wealthiest small towns on the planet. Its residents lived like European aristocrats, in a desert with no rivers, no farmland, and not a single drop of drinkable water. Today, it stands empty, silent, slowly disappearing, grain by grain. So how did one of the desert's richest towns become a place swallowed by sand? The answer begins with a single stone, lying on the ground. In 1908, this land was a German colony, and it was a brutal place to be. The coastline here is so hostile that sailors once called it the gates of hell. Fog, shipwrecks, and endless dunes. The Germans were building a railway inland from the small port of Lüderitz, and the desert fought them the entire way. Workers spent their days shoveling sand off the tracks, only to watch it return. One of those workers was a man named Zacharias Levala. One day in 1908, while clearing the line, Levala noticed something glittering in the sand. He had worked in the diamond mines of South Africa. He knew exactly what he was looking at. He handed the stone to his supervisor, August Stauker. It was a diamond, just lying on the surface of the desert. And it was not alone. What happened next sounds almost impossible. There were diamonds everywhere, not buried deep in rock, scattered across the ground. In some areas, workers crawled on their hands and knees at night, because in the moonlight the stones actually sparkled against the dark sand. Men picked up diamonds with their bare hands and dropped them into tins. The German government moved fast. It sealed off a vast stretch of desert and named it the Sperrgebiet, the Forbidden Zone. No one could enter without permission. And at the center of the rush, a town rose out of nothing. But Kolmanskop was never just a mining camp. The people who built it wanted something more. They wanted Europe, rebuilt in the desert. They built grand houses with verandas, a hospital with the first X-ray machine in the southern hemisphere, a school, a theater where touring performers came to sing, a ballroom, a gymnasium, even a saloon with a bowling alley. There was an ice factory in the desert heat, a small tram gliding between the buildings. Fresh water arrived by ship from Cape Town, over 1,000 kilometers away. For a while, this tiny town helped produce more than 1/10 of all the diamonds in the world. From the outside, Kolmanskop looked permanent, but the desert had a different opinion. Because here is the strange truth about life in Kolmanskop. Every glass of water was imported. Every piece of food arrived from somewhere else. The nearest real city was an ocean away, and the sand never stopped. Sandstorms scoured the paint off the walls. Fine dust worked its way through every window seal, every keyhole, every gap under every door. Families swept their homes not once a day, but constantly. Keeping the desert out was not a chore in Kolmanskop. It was a way of life. The residents drank champagne and hosted concerts. But every single day they were shoveling back the same dunes that surrounded them on every side. Kolmanskop was rich, but it was never in control. The town survived only as long as the diamonds made it worth the fight. And beneath the wealth, the first cracks were already forming. The first blow came from far away. In 1914, the First World War broke out, and the diamond market collapsed. No one buys luxury stones in wartime. Then Germany lost the colony itself. The mines slowed, and the easy fortunes suddenly looked fragile. The town recovered after the war. The parties returned. But there was a deeper problem no one could fix. The diamonds on the surface were running out. What had looked like endless treasure was a thin layer, scattered by rivers and ocean currents over millions of years. Every tin filled was a tin that could never be filled again. Then, in 1928, prospectors found something far to the south, near the mouth of the Orange River. It was one of the richest diamond deposits ever discovered. The stones were bigger, the fields were vaster. Compared to it, Kolmanskop's ground was almost empty. The mining industry began to move, and the money moved with it. The hard truth about a mining town is this: the town was never the point. The diamonds were. The same thing that created Kolmanskop was now destroying it. The operations shifted south to a new town called Oranjemund, and Kolmanskop began to die. Not in a single moment, but in a long, slow exhale. Families packed what they could carry. Everything else stayed behind. Pianos too heavy to move, beds, bathtubs, books still on the shelves. Some people simply closed their front doors and walked away, as if they might come back someday. They never did. Through the 1930s and 40s, the town emptied house by house. The theater went dark. The ice factory stopped. The hospital treated its last patient. By 1956, the very last residents were gone. First the noise disappeared, then the furniture, then the footsteps, and finally, the sand came in. Without anyone left to sweep it back, the desert did what it had been trying to do for 50 years. It came through every broken window, every open door, every crack. It didn't rush, it simply never stopped. Dunes formed inside living rooms. Staircases vanished. In some houses, the sand rose almost to the ceiling. The town that fought the desert every single day had finally lost. But the strange part is what happened next. Kolmanskop didn't disappear. It became famous. The same dry desert air that made life here so hard also preserved the town. It almost never rains, so the buildings decay slowly. The painted walls still hold their color. The German lettering still marks the old shops. Walking through it today feels less like visiting a ruin and more like stepping into a photograph someone forgot to finish. Photographers now travel from around the world to capture these rooms. Dunes flowing through hallways like frozen waves, doorways glowing with desert light. Visitors need a permit because the town still sits at the edge of the old forbidden zone, where diamond mining continues to this day. The people are gone. The wealth is gone. But the thing that destroyed Kolmanskop is the very thing that made it unforgettable. Kolmanskop was built on a belief that diamonds could make life permanent even here. For 40 years, it almost worked. People danced in ballrooms while dunes pressed against the windows. They held back the desert, one shovel at a time. But the diamonds lost their pull. The people moved on. Kolmanskop was built because people found diamonds in the desert. But in the end, the desert was the only thing that stayed. If you want to keep exploring the places the world left behind, subscribe to the Vanished Archive. There's another vanished story waiting.